We learned the Mishnah yesterday, which was talking about the Olas Ha'of. I'm going to try to run through this very quickly, okay? The Olas Ha'of is different from the Chatas Ha'of. These are two bird sacrifices. Bird sacrifices are generally different from animal sacrifices in a number of different ways. So we've already learned that the Chatas Ha'of, the bird Chatas, is done on the southwest corner, and the Ola, the bird Ola, is done on the southeast corner. Another difference is that when you sprinkle the blood of the bird Ola, it's above the chut, it's above that horizontal line that's 5 amos up on the wall of the Mizbeach. And for the Chatas Ha'of, you sprinkle the blood below the chut. Another difference that the Mishnah detailed for us is that when you shecht, you do malika, which is the thumbnail of the severing, right? With the Ola, you completely sever the head from the body by severing both the trachea and the esophagus. With the Chatas, you only sever one of the simanim, either the trachea or the esophagus, but not both. So let's take a look now at the Gemara. The Gemara now says on Samachei Amar Aleph, Tana Rabbanan v'hi krivo, ma talmud lomar. Why does the Torah write the word v'hi krivo, he shall bring it, if the word v'hi kriv is already mentioned in the pasuk, referring to the Olas Ha'of? Lefishan amar v'hi kriv min hatorim omi midei hayona yachol hamisnadev oflo yivchos mishnei predim talmud lomar v'hi krivo afilu preda echas yavi el hamizbeach. So the fact is the Torah, when it talks about the bird offering, it talks about it in the plural. If a person shall bring from the doves or the pigeons. So the fact that the Torah speaks in the plural, you might have thought that a minimum that you bring is 2 birds, and bringing 1 bird is not sufficient. So therefore the Torah says, V'hi krivo, bring it in the singular, to tell you that you can even bring a single bird as an ola. Ma talmud lomar hakohen. Why then does the Torah have to say, V'hi krivo hakohen, the kohen shall bring it? We already know that a kohen is the only one who can come to the mizbeach. So likvo alo kohen. The answer is to tell you that the malika needs to be done by a dafka, a kohen. It cannot be done by a zor, a non-kohen. Sheyachol v'alo dinhu ma ben son shekavalo tzafon lo kavalo kohen of shelo kavalo tzafon inu din shelo yikvalo kohen talmud lomar el hakohen likvalo kohen. So you might have thought that, look, an animal sacrifice, which is even more sort of restricted in its holiness, that it can only be shechted in the north, because an ola can only be shechted in the north, like a sheep, right? So you might think that since we're more liberal for the bird, then, so the Torah doesn't require a kohen for the stricter animal, so surely it should not require a kohen for the more liberal bird. So therefore the Torah says no. Dafka, the kohen, has to do the avoda from malika onwards. So yachol yimlakenu. So therefore, that tells me that only a kohen can do malika. It's a unique feature of malika that it can only be done by a kohen, whereas shechita can be done by a zar. Yachol yimlakenu b'sakin. So you might think that the act of malika is to be done by a knife, and not by the thumbnail of the kohen. And the dinhu umayim shechita shelo kavalo kohen kavalo kli malika shekavalo kohen and adin sheikvalo kli. And the logical argument is if shechita, which can be done even by a zar, requires a ministering vessel, then surely something more chashuv like malika, which can only be done by a kohen, should require a vessel. So talmud lomar kohen umalak. So therefore, what do you have? You have a pasuk that puts the word kohen immediately adjacent to the word malika. And like Rabbi Akiva says, Amar Rabbi Akiva v'chisal el datcha shazar karev legabi mizbeach. Why do I need to tell me that the kohen is associated with the malika if the malika is done on the mizbeach? Elamata molomar kohen shete malika ba'atzmo shel kohen. It's to teach me that the malika has to be done not only by a kohen, but it has to be done with the body of the kohen itself. The body is the instrument. So yachol yimlakenu bein milamala bein milamata. You might think that a kohen can do malika, whether he's at the bottom on the floor of the mizbeach, or whether he's up, let's say, on the yesod, or even the word lamala is a little bit ambiguous. It could even mean the yesod, which is 6 amos up, or it can mean the top of the mizbeach where the ma'aracha is. But anyway, you might think that he can do it anywhere as long as he's adjacent to the mizbeach. So talmud lomar umalak v'hiktir ma haktar barosh hamizbeach af malika barosh hamizbeach. So therefore the Torah says he has to do the malika adjacent to where he does the haktara. So just like the haktara, placing of the bird on the fire, is done on the top of the mizbeach, so too the malika has to be done at least in the vicinity of the top of the mizbeach. Umalak mimul oref. So the word malika, when you have the carbon chatas, the Torah defines what the word malika is. It's mimul orpo, from the nape of the neck. But the word malak appears without a description of the nape of the neck when it comes to the ola. So you need a brisa to tell you that just like by the chatas it's from the nape, so too by the ola it's from the nape. So ato mimul oref oina elaminat savar v'dinu nemar kanu malak v'nemar lahalanu malak malahalan mimul oref avkan mimul oref. So to dispel the thinking that maybe you could do malika from the front of the neck, you see the word umalak is used in the context of the chatas, and there it's explicit that it's from the nape. So too for the ola, it must be from the nape. Well, if you're comparing it to the chatas, remember the chatas, you only sever one of the two simanim, either the trachea or the esophagus. You don't completely remove the head. So maybe that should be the requirement for the ola as well. So tamulomar umalak vihiktir. Mahaktora harosh la'atzma v'haguf la'atzmo, af malika harosh la'atzma v'haguf la'atzmo. So therefore, to dispel that, the Torah says in the context of the ola, it puts the word malika adjacent to the word haktara. Just like the placing on the mizbeach of the bird onto the fire has to be done with the body and the head separately, so too the malika must completely sever the head from the body. Now, how do you know? How taka do you know that when you put it on the fire, it's two separate parts? So, shenemar v'hiktir oso, hare haktaras haguf amura, hamani mekayim v'hiktir hamizbecha, b'haktaras harosh hakosuv medaber. Because essentially the Torah writes v'hiktir, he shall place it on the fire twice in the context of the ola, one for the body and one for the head. So therefore, once I know that the placement on the fire is separate, body and head, I mean, I guess you got to think about, like, you know, a doll. You pull off the head because it's a little bit gory to think about a bird. Anyway, v'nimsa damo. So then the Torah talks about mitzoi. Remember, the Mishnah had said that if you don't do mitzoi, if you don't press the head and the body to squeeze out its blood against the wall of the mizbeach, both for the chatas and the oaf, then it's pasul. You didn't do mitzoi. Previously, on Friday's daf, we learned that mitzoi is not ma'akev. So there seems to be a machlokes tanoim, whether mitzoi is absolutely necessary or not. But according to our Mishnah, at least, the mitzoi is absolutely necessary. So v'nimsa damo kulo al kira mizbech v'lo al kira kevesh v'lo al kira heichal ve'ezozeh zekir ha'elyon. So when the Torah says you press its blood, it's not allowing you to place it on any other surface except the wall of the mizbech. You can't press it against the surface of the ramp. You can't place it on the surface of the wall of the heichal, but rather it can only be placed on the wall of the mizbech. And what part of the wall? It has to be on the upper part of the wall. O'ena elak kir hatachta v'dinhu ma behema shechatasa lamala ola salamata of shechatasa lamata enodin shala salamata. And I'll make an illogical argument to allow you to press the blood against the bottom part of the wall. Because after all, when it comes to animal sacrifices, it's reversed. The ola, for an animal, the blood is sprinkled below. And for a chatas, the blood is sprinkled above. Just the opposite for a bird. So therefore, make the logical argument. If by an animal ola, the blood is sprinkled below, so surely by a bird where the chatas is placed below, there should be some allowance for placement of an ola blood to be below. So tamulomar umalak v'iktir v'nimtza damo. So therefore what the Torah does is it places an adjacency between these three verbs, malika, haktara, and mitzoi. And it puts haktara as sandwiched in between these two words malika and mitzoi to teach me that both malika and mitzoi have to be done proximal to where the haktara is done, which is above. So, why did the Torah put mitzoi after haktara? It can't be to tell you that after you put the bird's body on the fire, you then pull it out of the fire and press its blood against the wall. That sounds absurd. So therefore, it's to do it to place an adjacency between the haktara and the mitzoi, to tell you that just like the haktara is done on top, so the mitzoi is done on top. So ha-ketzad. So let's talk about the mechanics. Haya ola bekevesh upona l'sovev ubala l'keren dromis mizrachis. The Kohen would go up the ramp, he'd go up halfway, make a right turn, go on the sovev, the ledge, that's 6 amas up high, and go to the southeast corner. Hayamolek es rosha mimul arpa. He would then do malika from the nape, umavdil, and then he would separate the head from the body, umimatzem midam al kira mizbech, and then he would press the animal's body and its head against the wall of the mizbeach. Is it
separate already, the body and the head?
He separated the body and the head.
Swishes?
Well, the Mishnah had said he smushes the head and then he smushes the body, right? So anyway, and then the Tanakam of this brisa says that if the Kohen wants to bend over and press it against the wall of the mizbech that's immediately below his feet, as long as it's within an amma below his feet, which is still above the chut, then it's still kosher. Okay? Now, Rabbi Nechemiah, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov omrim kol atzma einasis ela berosh hamizbeach. And they disagree. They say, no, a Kohen does not have the option of bending over and pressing below his feet. He says the whole avoda has to be done on the top of the mizbeach, and therefore the pressing of the blood has to be well above the sovev. So my beinayu, what's the machlokas between the two? Abaya v'Rav Adamri to Ravayu, osem arachal gabe sovev ika beinayu. The machlokas is, according to the Tanakama, at least in theory, if you wanted to make a little bonfire on the sovev, on that ledge itself, not on the top but on the sovev, you would have a right to do so. And therefore, by bending over the sovev and pressing it proximal to that little bonfire, you'd be within your rights as long as it's above the chut hasikra. And that's why the Tanakama holds that even if you don't make that little bonfire, it's still considered proximal to a theoretical ma'aracha, and therefore it's okay. But Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Nechemiah say, no, you don't have a right to make a mini bonfire on the sovev. You can only make a bonfire on top, and therefore the mitzvah has to be dafka above the sovev, which is proximal to the main ma'aracha, and that's the way it works. Okay. Now, balo leguf. So after you do the mitzvah of the head and you throw it on the ma'aracha, then you take the body, you do the mitzvah. First of all, you tear it open and you pull out the crop, which is a part of the intestinal system of the bird, with its feathers, and then you do mitzvah, and then you throw the body on the mizbech. So the Gemara says, Tana Rabbanan vehisiras mur aso benot sasa. You shall remove the mora'ah with its feathers. So zu zefik, this refers to the crop of the animal. Yachol yaktir b'sakin v'itlenu talmalomer benot sasa, notza lesa notza ima. You might think that you could just make a lateral incision, right, and then just pull out the crop. In other words, make an incision with a knife and open up the carcass and then just pull it out. So that's not good enough. You got to do it with your hands. And the reason is because you got to pull out a chunk that is together with its feathers. If you make an incision and just put your hand inside, there's no feathers. So that's why you got to grab it with your hands and just, like, what was that? Well, Indiana Jones, the right, to pull out the heart. Okay, anyway, so that's the opinion of the Tanakama. So Abba Yossi ben Chanan Omer notla v'notel kur kabana ima. So Abba Yossi bar Chanan says that when you pull out the crop, you pull out the gizzard together with the crop. Now, Devei Rabbi Yishmael Tana benotzasa benotza shala kodra b'sakin kemin aruba. Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael has a unique approach. He says that you still could use a knife if you don't want to pull it out with your hands. And his concern is, like Rashi says, is that you may end up pulling out too much and postling the bird if you just try to do it crudely with your hands. So therefore he says, use a knife, and instead of making just one lateral incision, cut a square in the belly of the bird, so that when you pull it out, you'll pull out some of its skin and feathers, and you'll pull out the crop and the gizzard. And that way you won't pull out more because you've done it through an incision, you've done it surgically correct. Okay, next. Shisa v'lo hivdil. So then what would you do? You would break open the bird's body so that you make it two halves, but you don't separate the two halves. If b'di'evid you do, by accident, it's still kosher. That's what we said by the Ola. Now, Tana Rabbanan v'shisa, ein shisa ela biyad. When you break it in half, you're supposed to do it with your hands. You don't do it with any instruments. V'chein hu omer vayishsaehu kishesa hagidi. And we find by Shimshon, that verb is used because Shimshon had Herculean strength, and he would break open, I think it's talking about the donkey that he killed with his own hands. It was a lion. Sorry, a lion. Okay. Lo heisir es hamura'a v'chulei. So then the next part that we're going on is the halacha that if the Kohen severs the head of a chatas when he's only supposed to sever one of the simon in either the trach or the esophagus, he pasels the carbon. Similarly, if the Kohen, vice versa, if he only severs one simon for the ola instead of severing it completely and removing the head, it's also pasel. It's no good. So on that, the Gemara says like this: Masnisan delok Rabbi Elazar b'Reb Shimon, Tanya Amar Rabbi Elazar b'Reb Shimon, Shamati shemavdilin b'chatas ha'of. Rabbi Elazar b'Reb Shimon is of the opinion that you are b'di'evet at least allowed to sever the head from the body for a chatas ha'of, and if you do it, it's still kosher. Not like our Mishnah says that if you sever the head for a chatas, it's not kosher. You can only do that for an ola. So the Gemara says, "My beinayu." What's the difference between the two? Amar. So in order to understand the next piece of Gemara, we have to just explain one point, and that is that the Gemara learns out from Sukkim that if you try to do the exact protocol of an ola bird on a chatas bird, you paseled it. If you try to do the exact protocol of a chatas bird on an ola bird, you pasel it. So the simple approach is severing the head is the protocol specifically for the ola bird. If you do that with a chatas bird, it's pasel, and vice versa. However, let's analyze it further. Let's see. So then why does Rabbi Elazar b'Reb Shimon say that it's still kosher? So Amar Rav Chisda mitzoi chatas ha'of ma'akev ika beinayu. Tanakama savar mitzoi chatas ha'of ma'akev v'kiven de mitzoi dam ka'avid kiven de mitzoi dam ma'akev ka'avid ma'ase ola b'chatas ha'of. Rabbi Elazar b'Reb Shimon savar mitzoi chatas ha'of lo ma'akev u'machatech basar ba'almahu. So the first approach is that of Rav Chisda, and that is like this. The Tanakama says that you must do mitzvah for a chatas bird, just like you have to do mitzvah for an ola bird. And if you don't do mitzvah, it's not kosher. So essentially like this: if I end up taking a chatas bird, I completely sever its head from its body, and then I have to do mitzvah in order for it to be kosher, then what I've done is I've completely replicated the full avoda of an ola bird onto a chatas bird, and therefore it's pasel. But Rabbi Elazar b'Reb Shimon says not that way. He holds that mitzvah is not ma'akev. So if I don't do it, the bird is still kosher for a chatas. So therefore, if I completely sever the head, I have a simple solution. I will get out of completely replicating the avoda of an ola bird on a chatas, but just not doing mitzvah. And in so doing, even though I've severed the head, since I'm not completely replicating the exact avoda of an ola bird by not doing mitzvah, the bird is still kosher. Okay? So that's one way of approaching it. So, and therefore, when I cut off the second siman, it's just severing gratuitous tissue, and therefore it's still kosher. Rava Amar Shehiyah b'siman sheni ba'ola sa'of ma'akev ika b'naihu. Tanakama sover Shehiyah b'siman sheni ba'ola sa'of lo ma'akev. Ve'afal gav d'shahayeh ka'avid ma'isa ola b'chatas. Rebbe Elazar b'Reb Shimon savar ma'akev v'kiven d'shahayeh mechatef basar ba'almo. Now we get to Rava's approach. It's a little bit more complicated, but it works like this. According to the protocol, as we'll see later on in the Gemara, when you sever by a chatas bird, you only have to sever one. Now, by an animal, you have to sever both simanim. What's the difference? So Rashi explains. The difference is that for a bird, because its life is so delicate, just by severing one siman, it's not considered to be alive anymore. So by a chatas, severing one siman, either the trachea or the esophagus, you've ended up successfully killing the bird for sacrificial purposes. And the Torah simply requires an additional severing of the second siman for an ola, but it does not require it for a chatas. So the machlokus is like this. When you sever the chatas, that's one siman in the chatas, the Torah also requires you to sever all of the surrounding tissue and cartilage that is around that one siman. And if you don't do it, according to the Tanakama, if you don't sever the surrounding tissue and cartilage, so then the severance is not a kosher severance. Now, therefore, if I'm doing the chatas and I'm severing the first siman. Let's say I'm severing the trachea, and I'm then severing all of the surrounding tissue, which takes a couple of seconds. I can only then sever the second siman, right? By doing that, according to the Tanakama, I've accomplished what's called shehiyah, a time lag between the severing of the first siman and a severing of the second siman. The Tanakama says that that's not a kosher shechita. Now we know that shehiyah invalidates shechita for an animal. If I have a time lag between the first siman and the second siman, the shechita is possible. We'll learn about that in Maseches Chulin, okay? But when it comes to a bird, this is the machlokes. Since I've already killed the animal after I've severed its first siman, does a time lag invalidate the severing of the second siman or not? So the Tanakama says, when you have this time lag, it does invalidate the severing of the second siman, and all it is a gratuitous cutting of tissue. So, I'm sorry, this is according to Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon. And therefore, you're not really imitating or replicating the avoda of an ola, because if you did that for the ola and you had that time lag, it would invalidate the malika, right? So therefore, Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon says, since you're severing all of the surrounding tissue around the first siman for the chatas, and only then afterwards you're severing the other siman, you're not replicating the ola act, and therefore it's kosher. And therefore it's kosher. You're just cutting tissue gratuitously, and therefore it's kosher. The Tanakama says that the time lag is not a big deal. And since the time lag is not a big deal, then you really are replicating what you would normally do for an ola as well. And therefore, since you're imitating an ola, that is what invalidates it. Okay, so that's Rava's approach. Now, Abaya's approach is very similar. Abaya Omar Rov Basar Ma'akev Yika Beinayu, period. Abaya says slightly differently. He says that the machlokas is it absolutely necessary after you sever the first siman for a chatas to also sever the surrounding tissue? According to Rabbi Elazar, everyone holds that if you have shehiyah, if you have that time lag, it invalidates it. But the machlokas is like this. According to Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, according to the Tanakama rather, you don't have to sever the surrounding tissue by the chatas after you sever the first siman, and therefore you can immediately go ahead and sever the second siman. And in so doing, you've replicated the act of the ola, and therefore you've invalidated it. But according to Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, if you absolutely have to sever the surrounding tissue, so then by doing so, you're not going to be imitating the ola act, and therefore it's perfectly okay b'di'evet. And the Gemara now says that this machlokus between Abai and Rava is of the plukta de Reb Zera v'Reb Yishmol bar Rav Yitzchak. Chad Omer shehiyah b'simin sheni ba'olas of ma'akev ika beinayu. V'chad Omer rov basar ma'akev ika beinayu. And what we just explained as the machlokus between Abai and Rava is the same machlokus between these two Amoraim. Michlal deboin and derov basar batchila in. So this, it seems that everyone agrees that lechatchila at least, by a chatas ha'of, when you sever the first siman, you also have to sever the surrounding tissue. And that's true, says the Gemara. Yes, it seems to be by consensus. Everyone seems to take that as a given. Where do we see this from? V'hatanya, here's the brisa. Keitzad molkin chatas ha'of, chosech shedra umafrekes below rov basar. The protocol for doing malika for a chatas bird is like this. The first thing you do when you stick in your thumbnail is you identify where the spinal cord and the vertebrae is, and you sever that. That's the first step, okay? Ad shemagia leveshet o lekana. Higia leveshet o lekana chosech siman echad o rubo. Verov basar imo. And then you feel around until you get to one of the two simanim, either the trachea or the esophagus, and you sever that one siman, or the majority of that one siman, together with the surrounding tissue. So you see that that's the protocol, that you must sever the surrounding tissue. Now, this must take a tremendous amount of training. If you were to give me a bird and say, okay, do malika, I wouldn't have a clue. You have to
learn. You're a chayim.
I know, but I'm saying, but you can't learn just by learning the halachas. You have to actually have shimush, because otherwise, like,
Didn't they train before?
they had to train. They had to train. That's why they didn't. I think they didn't start until they were 30. They were spending 5 years training.
For 50
I know. How good can
Yeah.
they be if they're looking?
And an uva ola shnaim or rov shnaim. And when it comes to an ola, you do the same protocol, but you sever both of the trachea and the esophagus, or the majority of those. Now, Amrua Kamei de Rabbi Yirmiyah. So when they were teaching over this whole sugi and they were trying to explain the machlokus between the Tanakam and Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, as to whether b'di'evet, if you severed the head by a chatas, it's kosher or not kosher, they said, oh, it's based on this machlokas Abai and Rava, as to whether the surrounding tissue has to be severed, or as to whether shehiyah is a problem or not. And he said, guys, why are you getting so lumdish? Amar lo shamia lehuha da Amar Reb Shimon ben Eliyakim mishum Reb Elazar ben Pedas mishum Reb Elazar ben Shamua Omer haya Reb Elazar Reb Shimon shamati b'chata sa'of shemavdilin. He says, one second, all we know is that Reb Elazar Reb Shimon says that by the chata sa'of, if you want to, you can divide the head from the body, at least b'di'evet it's kosher. Umay lo yavdil, ein tzarech lahavdil. All because, why? Not because of some technical issue having to do with shehiyah or the surrounding tissue around the siman, but rather because he looks at the pasuk. The pasuk says, do not separate the head from the body for the chatas. But when the Torah says do not separate it, all it means is you don't need to separate it. That's what it means. So the Gemara says that's surprising. And so therefore it's got nothing to do with the lumdus that we just presented before. It's got to do with how you understand the words lo yavdil. Lo yavdil simply means you don't need to separate it, but if you want to separate it, you could. So Amrle Ravacha Berei de Rav Ravashi Ela Me'ata Gabi Bor Dichsiv Lo Yichasenu Achanami Dein Tzarach Lechasos. One second. If you're telling me that when the Torah says don't separate it, it means you don't need to separate it. Here's another example where the Torah says don't do something. When a person has dug a bore in Rishus Harabim, if the Torah says that if you don't cover it and a person falls in, you're liable. Is that to suggest that you don't need to cover it and it's perfectly okay for you to just walk by it and not take any responsibility for the pit that you dug? So the Gemara says no, that's ridiculous, because hachi hashta hasam keven dichsiv baal habor yishalem ilu yehu derami lechisuye. Since contextually the Torah says that he who dug the pit has to cover it, it's clear from the context that the Torah says, I don't want you to leave the bore open, you've got to cover it. Because obviously, if someone falls in and dies, you have to pay damages. But over here, contextually, what does the Torah say by the olas ha'of, where it talks about severing the head from the body? It says, V'hi krivo, bring it this way, but bring it dafka this way, and not any other bird this way. So the Torah has already told you that this feature of splitting the head from the body is a unique feature only of the olah. Why then does the Torah have to make a special point when it talks about the chatas to say, don't divide the head from the body? Isn't that already self-explanatory? It's coming to tell you that you don't need to split it. You don't need to sever the head from the body. But if you do, it's certainly b'di'evet kosher. And this is where we'll hold it for today. We did the express version of this daf.